You ever walk into a room and feel every eye burn right through you, like the universe itself is holding its breath, just waiting for you to mess up? That's how it felt the first time I set foot in DR. Richard Coleman's advanced physics class at Princeton. Imagine a room so silent you could hear the second-hand tick on a wall clock buried behind 200 anxious students. And then there's this one voice sharp, cold snapping out, "What do you think you're doing in my class?" Yeah, that was my welcome. DR. Coleman wasn't the type to let anyone, least of all a kid like me black, from Newark, sitting front and center slip by unnoticed. I just looked up at him, calm as I could manage, heart hammering in my chest like a warning drum. He asked again, real slow, making sure everyone in that auditorium knew who the outlier was. "This is a course for students with exceptional IQs, not for those who got in through quotas." I could hear the whispers ripple through the crowd, that half-shocked, half-amused tension you only get when someone's about to be put in their place. He didn't know me. Nobody there did. All they saw was a seat in the front row that wasn't supposed to be mine. So I said, "I'm here to learn physics, sir." Maybe too simple for him, because he just laughed, that brittle sound people make when they're about to show you just how small they think you are. He pointed at the mess of equations sprawling across the blackboard symbols and numbers that looked like a secret code, unless you spoke the language. "This isn't high school physics, young man." But see, that's where he had it twisted. What nobody in that polished old building knew was that I'd grown up where hope got thrown out with the trash, where a book on quantum mechanics pulled from a busted dumpster became my escape hatch. When he dared me to solve an impossible problem on the board, I could see the setup clear as day. This wasn't about physics. This was about reminding me and everybody watching where I stood. He told me I had an hour. I picked up that chalk, palms dry, mind steady, and for a second it all came back. Candlelight when the power died, textbooks older than my mom's nursing shifts, the laughter from kids who thought dreaming about science was just plain dumb. I heard him say, or rather, "You have until the end of class to at least try." But for me, equations always made sense, even when the rest of life didn't. So I started, slow at first, letting the numbers fall into place. About halfway in, I turned and asked real polite, "Mind if I use the Coleman-Weinstein approach?" That wiped the smirk right off his face. Only a handful of folks knew about that method, and I'd studied every paper he'd ever published. The chalk moved fast me own twist on his formula, not just copying, but improving in. Suddenly the air in the room shifted. Min, one of his research fellows, sat up straighter, her eyes tracking every symbol. I wasn't just solving his problem. I was rewriting the way it should have been done in the first place. When I finished, it had barely been 20 minutes. The silence wasn't mocking now. It was something heavier. Coleman leaned in, squinting at the solution, and I saw it in his eyes. Panic. "Impossible. You must have memorized this." "No, sir," I said. "I just applied your 2020 Journal of Quantum Physics Transformation, but took out 3 unnecessary steps." I might as well have punched him in the gut. That article was his pride, barely cited, almost forgotten except by me. He dismissed the class, told me to come to his office, and, as everyone filed out buzzing with what they'd seen Mind, stopped beside me, dropped some papers, and whispered, "He's going to try to destroy you. Meet me in the library at 7. Bring a flash drive." Now, let me back up a sec. Sometimes it's the quiet ones in the room who've got the sharpest knives. In his office, Coleman was all fury and suspicion, waving my file in my face. Newark Public School. No awards. No competition show could I know what I knew. He accused me of cheating, of being someone's puppet, MIT's maybe. I just said, "Test me however you want." That got under his skin, so he sent an impossible essay on superstring theory, 10 pages, equations included. I promised it by Thursday, not Friday. Yeah, that happened. That night, in our apartment, mom asleep, after another double shift, I hid away with my notes, rejection letters from Princeton, and the drive Min told me to bring. She met me in the stacks, looked around like we were in a spy movie, and told me something wild. Coleman had a history. 2 years back, he'd stolen a theory from an international student, truaned the kid's life. The university buried it. She handed me proof. And the kicker? The big new article Coleman was about to publish, yeah. He'd stolen that too, from the late Professor Thompson. Now, you could say I had a choice, but I really didn't. I filed a formal request for course admission under Princeton's expanded access program, knowing it would force a review. Days blurred as I worked, not just on that essay, but on unraveling Coleman's breakthrough paper. Turned out, he'd copied it so carelessly, he'd missed a fundamental flaw that would blow up the theory if published. May turns out her name was May, not Min, but everyone just called her Min, kept tabs on me, telling me Coleman was convinced I was a weapon sent by his enemies. Let him think that, I said. What's your plan? She asked. Justice was all I told her. Because, truth be told, I wasn't just fighting for me. Back in Newark, I tutored kids like me bright, overlooked, told to settle for less. Thursday came. I handed in 25 pages, not 10, linking superstring theory to the latest particle physics. Coleman looked it over astonished, but cold. Doesn't matter, he said. You're still not one of us. I told him I'd be at the academic committee meeting the next morning. The plan was set. That night, lights burned late in 2 windows. Coleman, sweating over his plagiarized paper, and me, running final checks, ready to expose it all. The next morning, the meeting hall was packed. 6 professors, the dean, students crowding the back. Coleman tried to shut me down, call me unqualified. I cut in, presented my essay, and then, calmly, a side-by-side analysis of his upcoming article and Professor Thompson's unpublished work. The proof was right there, identical math, word for word, plus a critical error Coleman had missed. The room froze. May confirmed everything. Dr. Peterson, one of the committee, took off his glasses and just stared at Coleman, who had nothing left to say. I placed a flash drive on the table. More testimony from other students, all international, all victims of Coleman's theft. Dr. Harris, the dean, looked at me and said, Mr. Johnson, you're officially accepted into the program. Full scholarship. Coleman exploded, had to be restrained by security as he raged about his reputation. As they dragged him out, someone started clapping, then the whole room did. That applause wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. And that's the real twist. Because in that moment, it wasn't about me or even Coleman. It was about the whole system, all those invisible Marcus Johnson skids who'd never even get this far because the game was rigged from the start. But sometimes you break through, and when you do, you don't just open the door for yourself, you rip it off the hinges. 3 months later, the auditorium was packed for my first lecture as assistant professor. At 19, badge on my chest, standing where I'd once been humiliated. My mom sat up front, beaming through her exhaustion. The investigation had blown the lid off years of abuse. Other professors exposed, resignations, a shockwave through the Ivy League. I opened my class with the truth. Physics belongs to those who dare to ask, not those who fit a mold. May, now coordinator of our outreach, helped me start a new program, searching for talent in forgotten neighborhoods. The severance Princeton paid me after the case funds it. Meanwhile, Coleman teaches freshman physics at a rundown college. His name scrubbed from the journals, arrogance in ruins. After my first lecture, Dr. Peterson congratulated me on the collaborative theorem we'd just published. Not just me, I said. It's the kids in Newark, the ones nobody saw coming. My Princeton classroom runs as a hub, linking young minds from every background. Radical inclusion. Maybe the biggest revolution in science isn't a new theory, it's who gets to do the thinking. One day, a group of freshman Black, Latino kids who'd nearly given up stopped me outside the physics building. We started a study group because of you, one said. I remember the boy I'd been, knocking on closed doors. I told them, the world will always try to convince you that you don't belong. But you're not just proving it for yourself, you're opening the way for everyone after you. That night, in my new apartment, I looked at the rejection letters framed beside my desk and smiled. Sometimes you have to break down the door they keep locked. So, let me ask you, how many Marcus Johnsons are still out there, waiting to be seen, fighting a system that never wanted them in the first place? If you've ever had to smash your way into a room, tell us how you did it. Share your story below, and don't forget to stick around because the revolution's just getting started, and this is one door we're never letting them close again.